The Phyrexian High Council mocks the Terran colonies, confident no one will come to defend them. In their arrogance, they overlook a single phrase in the intercepted human broadcast, a phrase that will change the course of the galaxy. We won't. Waste missiles on peasants, the Phyrexian Chancellor sneered, eyes slitted with amusement as holograms of burning human outposts flickered behind him. The chamber of the High Council erupted in cold, cruel laughter. Not a single voice raised concern. Not a single heart skipped at the sight of children screaming through smoke, clinging to the wreckage of their shelters. It was beneath them. Helplessness was to be exploited. They'll plead. And we'll charge them interest, Minister Voros smirked, swirling his amber flask. It's what they're good at, begging. 8 drones buzzed in the corners of the chamber, recording every word, every laugh, every snide toast to pacification. No one noticed the whisper from the background audio feed, too garbled to catch unless you were listening intently. But Earth was listening. That feed, the one they intercepted from a forgotten satellite's emergency relay, wasn't meant to reach them. But it did, a low murmur like static dot, and then a single sentence. Evac failed. Civilians down. Do not wait for reinforcements. Just send the fleet. That was it. No scream, no threat, no vengeance speech. Just 4 words. Just send the fleet. The laughter died. 3 days later, but on the day of the broadcast, the Phyrexians still felt untouchable. Their flagship orbited above the smoldering colony of Fairbridge 9, broadcasting propaganda on all channels. Below, the last human transmissions were nothing more than emergency flares and static sobs. They think Earth will retaliate? Chancellor. Relu scoffed, tapping a claw on the armrest of his obsidian throne. They're too sentimental and too far. Another counselor added, besides, Earth hasn't even acknowledged the war. Relu smiled. Exactly. Silence is surrender. No, silence was Earth breathing in. 6 hours after that session, an anomaly was detected in Phyrexian orbital space. No signatures. No warp residue. Just appearance. As if something materialized from absence. A black mass, silent, sunless, hovered just outside sensor range. It bore no emblem, no lights, no sound. The flagship's AI scanned it. Error. Unable to parse structure. Object contains no reflection profile. Possible void-tech. And then the stars behind it blinked out like something larger was arriving. Commander Vex? We've got multiple contacts. Unmarked. No known race. No registry. No. A scream cut through the bridge comes. The first pulse came soundlessly. No explosion. No kinetic tremor. Just a section of the ship was gone, vaporized into a perfect crescent void. Then the screaming began. Then the begging. One of the senior officers whispered, This isn't a response. And another replied, This is a reckoning. In the final transmission before blackout, the Chancellor's voice was recorded. They're not broadcasting demands. Why aren't they silence, not static, not noise, a pure, horrifying absence? The galaxy would later analyze this moment for years, debating tactics, studying heat signatures, desperately trying to understand the design of the ship that started it all. But they missed the point, because what mattered wasn't the tech. It was the silence before, and the phrase. Earth had whispered through the void, just send the fleet. They thought it was mercy. It wasn't. The sky over Arden Station bled red as survivors tried to dig graves into metallic ground. There was no soil here, no softness. Just titanium panels scorched from orbital fire, warped and broken beneath their knees. The children cried silently now, not because they had no tears left, but because sound invited attention. And attention meant death. Corporal Lean Ash knelt beside the smallest grave. She didn't remember the boy's name, just that he had offered her a boiled root when she arrived to secure the evac route. She hadn't eaten it. She should have. She kept staring at her rifle. She hadn't fired a single shot. Orders were to hold, to wait, to observe. Earth hadn't declared war. Earth was still negotiating. She whispered without moving her lips. We held the line. We followed every order. We bled by protocol. Behind her, a medic stacked another body into a makeshift cold-shell chamber. The lid wouldn't even close. A tiny hand slipped into hers. Mila, the only one still standing from Sector 3. Ash didn't look down. I don't want to sleep, Mila said. Then don't, Ash replied. You sleep when Earth gets here? Mila blinked up at her. Will they come? The corporal's hand tightened. Her voice didn't. They already have. No one else heard the sonic shift in orbit. No alarms. No fanfare. Just pressure like gravity had gotten confused. The temperature dropped by 4 degrees in 5 seconds. Every evac dome's emergency. Lights blinked without reason. The medic looked up. Was that? Ash raised a hand. She? Another second passed, and the sky changed color. It didn't glow red. It peeled. As if a layer of atmosphere had been burned away by something hotter than physics allowed. What emerged wasn't sleek. Wasn't even symmetrical. It looked broken. As if someone had forged a ship not for aesthetics or efficiency, but for revenge. Its black metal hull pulsed with something not quite light, not quite flame. Then a voice, female, calm, human, broadcast through every device in the colony. This is UN's Rathburn. Evacuation authority now transferred. Engage auto-lockdown. Fire support incoming. Ash stood up, the rifle in her hand, suddenly feeling too small. The medic whispered, Rathburn? That's a myth, a cold vault relic. Ash didn't answer. She was staring at the child's grave. The Rathburn began its descent. No landing gear. No REPULSORS. It folded space around itself and blinked from one altitude to the next, like reality was giving it shortcuts. When it reached 300 meters above the colony, it stopped. Then it released them. Not missiles. Not drones. Not warnings. Just dashed them. Suits blacker than void. Not marked with flags, but names. Names engraved on their armor, not painted like tombstones meant to move. They fell like judgment. No thrusters. Just pure velocity. The first squad landed like war gods, knees cracking titanium, seismic pulses blasting outward. Then the screams began. Not from the humans. From the Threxian remnant force hiding in the outskirts. They had stayed behind to loot the bodies. One squad, maybe 24 soldiers. They didn't last a minute. Ash turned her back. She didn't need to see it. She just listened. To the sound of bone shattering, armor splitting, voices gurgling their last orders. One Threxian tried to flee toward the evac line. He never made it to the second step. His body folded inward like gravity had forgotten which way to pull. Ash saw it happen from the corner of her eye. And Mila whispered, They're monsters. No, Ash replied, kneeling to Mila's level. They're what happens when you push peace too far. The Rathburn's voice returned. Zone secure. Medical drones inbound. Prepare surviving civilians for departure. Hostiles eliminated. Standing by for fleet arrival. The medic exhaled. Fleet? Ash shook her head slowly. That wasn't the fleet. Behind her, the Rathburn rose back into the clouds. Silent, cold, like it hadn't just avenged an entire colony. Mila looked up. Why didn't they say anything? Ash replied without emotion. Because we weren't the ones who needed the message. High above them, beyond the exosphere, A relay drone had recorded everything: the screams, the impact, the deaths. That footage had already been sent to the Galactic Treaty Alliance to the Threxian Supreme Seat to every single empire that had turned their heads away. When humans begged for intervention, the footage ended with a single frame. The Rathburn hovering above burning Threxian wreckage. No music. No threat. Just a final line in white text. They targeted the helpless. We arrived. On Zarek Prime, in the Council of Seven's chamber, an advisor burst through the doors, pale and breathless. They sent a single ship, he panted. From Earth? The Archon asked. Yes. But not just that. They sent it alone. And? The advisor raised trembling hands, showing the footage. The Archon watched the final minute in silence. No one spoke, not even to breathe. And then, as the feed cut to black, the Archon whispered, "They're not fighting for territory." Someone asked, "Then what?" "They're fighting for the ones we forgot." The room remained frozen, because deep inside they all knew this was not war. This was the opening act. And Earth hadn't even responded fully. Not yet. The Galactic Alliance's Strategic War Council hadn't convened in full session in nearly a century. Not since the Zarnith collapse. But this wasn't about Zarniths anymore. This was about Earth and the thing they just unleashed. The chamber was vast, floating, suspended in Lagrange orbit around the capital moon of Indrix 9. There were 72 seats at the table, only 20 occupied physically. The rest? Holographic proxies from species who didn't want to breathe in the same airspace as humans. Threxian Admiral slammed his three-fingered hand on the crystal table. It was one ship. Silenced. Another delegate from the Mechary swarm twitched. His mandibles. One ship that wiped 2 full platoons, dismantled a defense outpost, vaporized a command relay, and left, with no trace. And no declaration, hissed the Chancellor of the Adari Commonwealth. Do you understand what that means? No signature, no claim, no rules. This was extermination without engagement. An elder draped in silk robes, human in shape but old enough to have traded diplomacy with the first Terran emissaries, spoke softly. No, this was them holding back. The council turned to him. Explain, the Threxian Admiral demanded. Elder didn't blink. That was not the Terran fleet. That was a warning. A single-class dreadnought. Retrofitted? Declassified. He paused, then added, one they retired 2 wars ago. Another silence swept across the chamber like a wave of frost. Then the projection lit up again, this time with grainy, high-speed footage pulled from a nearby miner's drone. They watched it frame by frame. The Rathburn emerging from folded space like it was tearing through the universe's skin. The way it descended in jarring skips, not flight. The way it stopped above the battlefield not to fight, but to release the ones aboard. The high voice, the names etched in armor, the lack of diplomacy, the lack of anything. Human. They weren't sent to win, the Mechary delegate said. At last, they were sent to remind. Someone else asked, remind who? The elder's answer was immediate. Everyone. And across the galaxy, the message was already spreading not through networks, but in whispers. Soldiers told one another about the black ship with no shadow. Refugees whispered of humans who came not to negotiate, but to judge. Smugglers joked about avoiding Terran space not because it was guarded, but because it was quiet. Too quiet. That. Silence had teeth. Back on Arden Station, the Rathburn was gone. In its place, rescue cruisers swarmed like metal angels, scooping up survivors, running neural restabilizers, patching burn wounds and memory fractures. Lean Ash stood beside Mila as the evac line formed. You sure you're ready to leave this place? She asked the girl. Mila didn't answer. Just looked back once at the crater where the Threxians had made their last stand. Did you see them burn? Mila asked. Ash hesitated. Then I saw them stop breathing. That's not the same. No, Ash admitted. It's worse. They boarded silently. Inside the cruiser. A soft holo displayed their next location. Terra Luna 1B Civilian Reintegration Habitat. Ash turned to one of the escort soldiers' uniform, clean, gun magnetized to her hip, young, unscarred. Did you see the Rathburn land? Ash asked her. The woman shook her head. We just saw the aftermath. Ash tilted her head. And how did it make you feel? The soldier paused, then said flatly, I'm glad they're on our side. Ash didn't smile. She didn't feel glad. She felt cold. Far from Arden, on a planet called Corvallis 4, an outer rim world that hadn't seen conflict in 100 years, something fell from the sky. It wasn't a ship. It was a canister, sleek, black, with a faint human seal carved along its midsection. It embedded itself in the surface like a spear hurled by a god. Locals gathered. Hesitant. It hissed once. And opened. No explosion. No sound, just a projector. It flickered, then stabilized into a 3D feed of a Terran commander. Full black uniform, red trim. Face blank. His message lasted exactly 13 seconds. To those who target civilians, we do not recognize your claim to war. We do not acknowledge your right to battle. You have chosen to violate the innocent. Therefore, you have forfeited any claim to peace. We do not speak again. We act. The image cut. The canister hissed again, and self-disintegrated. By the end of the day, that feed was on 1 million back channels. It reached pirate dens, smugglers, mercenaries, rebel sectors, warlords. Not one voice called it propaganda, because none of them doubted it, because everyone knew the face in that feed. General Cale Reese, retired, buried in legend. The man who once detonated a dying star to end a siege. The man who never spoke threats, only outcomes. In the upper rings of the Androxy cloud, a patrol fleet intercepted a vessel moving toward restricted space. They sent out a standard hail, unregistered craft. You are approaching a diplomatic exclusion zone. Please respond and state your intent. No answer. Second hail. No answer. Then they zoomed the feed and saw the markings, a single Terran symbol. Not military. Just one phrase. You'll never see mercy coming. The patrol captain ordered full retreat. No shots fired. No warning sent. Because even rumor had weight now. Earth didn't send envoys anymore. It sent silence. Then fire, and it never came twice. In dark corners of the galaxy, new terms began to spread. Dread Protocol. Ghost Ship Doctrine. Fleet Zero. No official records. No confirmed deployments. Just one chilling certainty. Earth had stopped talking. And now they were listening to who needed to burn next. Aboard the orbital fortress Vigilant Warden, the last meeting between surviving leaders of the fractured Galactic Alliance took place in whispers and low glances. They weren't debating anymore. They were stalling, buying time, hoping Earth hadn't noticed them yet. But Earth had noticed every intercepted frequency, every exploit of the helpless, every station turned into slave pits, every colony forced into silence. They noticed all of it. And worse, they remembered. The ones who didn't remember, who thought humanity would stay silent forever. Those were already gone. They just hadn't realized it yet. Inside the fortress, Chancellor Vero, formerly proud Threxian noble, now a pale shadow of authority, reviewed the latest data with trembling claws. His eyes stared at the map, but his mind was stuck on that footage. That cursed transmission. We do not speak again, we act. They'd all heard it. They all understood. What it meant now, it wasn't just a warning, it was a farewell. Earth had removed itself from the galactic conversation entirely. In orbit around the ruins of Mercury Prime, the Earth fleet had arrived. Not one ship, not 10, but thousands. Each of them quiet, each of them motionless. Each of them impossible. The formation wasn't defensive. It wasn't even tactical. It was symbolic. A wall. A wall of silence stretching across the sky. Admiral Nail of the surviving Mercury Command whispered to his lieutenant, "Why aren't they firing?" The lieutenant stared at the visual feed, throat dry. I think they're waiting. For what? For us to realize we lost. Then the human flagship moved. The Vindicator. An older class dreadnought outdated by most galactic standards. No plasma shielding. No hypermaneuver thrusters. Just reinforced armor and a drive core that pulsed like a heartbeat. But when it turned, every ship in the fleet turned with it, like a living thing. No signals. No commands. Just unity. A single purpose. And then, without a sound, the bombardment began. The sky shattered. Not with explosions. With precision. Every strike was targeted. Military posts. Slave camps. Control towers. Command bunkers. And only those. No hospitals. No shelters. No evacuation zones. It was as if the Terran AI systems had judged every corner of the planet and only marked the guilty. No mercy. But no mistakes. The galaxy had never seen this kind of war. Not a rage-fueled assault. Not a bloodthirsty rampage, but a surgical purge, reckoning with rules they didn't even know existed. Inside the vigilant warden, Chancellor Voro screamed into the hololink, "You've made your point. What do you want? We surrender. We concede. We kneel." No reply, only static. Then only once another human face appeared. Not a commander, not a soldier, just a woman in plain black clothing. Calm. Expressionless. She looked straight through him. "We don't want your surrender. You lost that option when you targeted the ones who couldn't fight back. You don't get to speak. You get to disappear." The feed went dark. And in that instant, the vigilant warden lost gravity. Power. Systems failed. Airlocks cracked. Outside, a single Terran cruiser, barely half the size of the Fortress, activated a localized collapse device. Something no galactic protocol even had a name for. It didn't explode. It didn't burn. It erased. In under 6 seconds. The entire fortress ceased to exist. No debris. No flare. Just nothing. Back on Earth, no celebrations took place. There were no parades. No victory broadcasts. Because this wasn't war. This was cleaning up a mess the galaxy thought they'd gotten away with. The fleet returned in silence. Every ship vanished into low-orbit stations. No declarations made. No territories seized. No resources extracted. Earth wanted nothing, only justice. And they had delivered it. In a classroom deep within Earth's Academy of Galactic Studies, a young cadet raised her hand. "Professor, is it true the Rathburn acted alone?" The professor, a veteran named Soren Vale, one arm missing from wars he never discussed, nodded. "It did. But why didn't Earth send everything right away?" Soren walked to the edge of the stage, slow and quiet. "Because we waited. Because we asked. Because we believed the galaxy could police itself. But they didn't." He looked at her. Double quotes. "No, they didn't." Another student whispered, "Will we do it again?" Soren Vale's eyes didn't blink. "We won't have." 2. In the years that followed, something strange began to happen. The galaxy grew quieter. Not in fear, but in restraint. Pirates avoided civilian lanes. Empires reviewed their laws. Old enemies reached treaties simply to avoid the Terran eye. Not because Earth ruled them, but because Earth remembered every scream, every silence, Every life extinguished too soon. They remembered the helpless. And the helpless? They remembered who came, a phrase echoed across systems now, not written, not formal, just whispered, shared in shadows, in bars, in bunkers. If you target the weak Earth hears you. And another, the final line of Earth's unspoken creed, we do not threaten, we arrive. And the galaxy understood that was the end of the story, and Earth never needed to speak again.